My name is Kimani Njogu. I work with Twaweza Communications. Twaweza Communications is an arts, culture, and media institution that was founded in the year 2000. We work on a wide range of areas, including publishing, training, and advocacy. With regard to alternative media, we work especially with local language stations. So we train journalists who work with Kiswahili as well as other local languages to professionalize them and ensure that they uphold media ethics. We also try to give them content which is relevant to society. In terms of programming, so that we come up with the relevant content, we monitor the local language stations and identify the errors that journalists are making. And from those errors, then we craft an appropriate training facility for them. The other beneficiary of this alternative approach is actually the youth. So that ordinarily we would look at the content that comes out of media houses that is relevant to the youth. Then we organize youth dialogues across the country. Much more recently, we've focused on devolution because we think that devolution needs to be focused on. And the impetus for this approach comes from the different cultures that we have. So, we call these youth dialogues. They are not youth trainings. They are dialogues, young people enriching each other, talking about the issues very close to themselves, whether those issues are social, cultural, or political. And what is alternative about this also is the fact that the dialogues are initiated through media outlets. So we would be listening to radio stations or reading the newspapers and crafting, appropriate content for journalists as well as the youth. But I think that the most significant innovation for Twaweza Communications is really our ability to work with cultural scholars to enrich the sector, the culture, media, and arts sector. Ordinarily, you would expect that cultural scholars are found in classrooms and doing research and teaching and so on. But in our case, we move them away from institutions of higher learning and link them directly with practitioners in public spaces, and we engage, very important national issues. So in a sense, we are opening up the space for public intellectual discourse. We are opening up opportunities for scholars who would otherwise not leave the university, to leave the university and enrich, the arts, culture, and media sector. And that's very, very important because it brings in a certain theory into the practice of arts, media, and culture. But it also gives additional skills with regard to advocacy. Twaweza Communication houses the National Committee for Kiswahili. And one of the things that we are currently doing is putting in place a Languages of Kenya policy and bill. Now, we believe that with the enactment of the policy as well as the bill, we will be able to really provide greater opportunities for training of Kiswahili journalists as well as local language journalists. We believe that with the devolution, there's going to be such a huge growth of the media sector in Kenya, and it is important that they be protected, not just by the media bill, but also the Languages of Kenya bill, which will obligate the state to invest in local languages as well as our national language, Kiswahili. So that's an important intervention for us, this ability to bring intellectual discourse into the practice of media, something that is hardly done. And over the years, we have tried to capture that discourse in publications which we consider to be alternative publications. Now, these publications are alternative at two levels. The first level is that no commercial publisher would actually pick these publications. Because commercial publishers are driven by profit, they are driven by commercial interests. In our case, we are driven by the importance of archiving knowledge and capturing memory as we move along. And therefore, these publications do provide that opportunity to archive knowledge. In addition, they provide an opportunity for research in media, culture, and the arts. And we know for a fact that a number of our publications have excited students, both undergraduate and graduate students, to study areas of media which they would not have studied otherwise. So that is very, very important for us. We are also the ones who publish Jahazi, which is an arts, culture, and performance journal, in which, again, we find practitioners in the arts, media, and culture sector publishing alongside scholars of those sectors. Practitioners that would ordinarily not publish. They practice media, they work with media, but through Jahazi, we have created an opportunity for them to pen their reflections, to write their thoughts, and to publish alongside very seasoned scholars, including Wole Soyinka, and that calls for a fairly rigorous editing process. So we do have an editorial board that helps in the editing of the journal. So it is very, very important that through this program of intellectual engagement with the sectors, we are able to also document events as they take place. I would also want to mention that advocacy for us is extremely important, and we worked with other stakeholders to ensure that media, and culture were protected by the Constitution. And we are moving now to a level where we would like to see Kenya enact a cultural policy and bill, really a policy that celebrates our diverse cultures, but contributes in the creation of the nation Kenya. So our understanding of media is pretty broad. It is really the ways in which people communicate, and we have drawn our inspiration in understanding alternative media from understanding the ways in which mainstream media operates, but also learning from our various cultures. We are also, to a small degree, getting interested in film. And we've worked with partners to put together a history of film, in which we capture 100 years of filmmaking in Kenya. We have much more recently put together a short film working with the students from Kenyatta University to produce a film called Our Strength. And that film is being used by civil society organizations to educate people on the importance of cohesion, on the importance of ethnic tolerance and tolerance of difference, and the importance of taking action to protect each other against oppressive systems of the state, including, avoiding political manipulation towards violence. We have also, in fact, also put together a short film on a cultural wedding, in which we try to show that our cultures are very rich in terms of providing space to understand the world and to understand the ways in which that world is connected with the environment. So Twaweza Communications does work with alternative media, and we are looking forward to an opening and a broadening of these spaces so that we can continue operating. We are also linked online through Twaweza TV, where we are able to post most of our stuff online for other people to view. Yeah.
How do you disseminate the content to consumers?
Well, there are a number of approaches. I mean, the first principle that we have at Twaweza is that all our materials must be made available in all our public universities. So as part of our philosophy, we must give away sufficient copies of our publications to the university. The publications that we produce are also published through Africa Book Collective London, and that caters for the international audience, whether it is in the United States or in Asia or in Europe. We do distribute through our various networks. We are able to put in our publications to the various bookstores. There is a huge misconception that mainstream media is superior. Actually, it is not. I think that all media are useful in social transformation, in informing, communities and societies. I think that this misconception is a consequence of a feeling that because there is a lot of capital in mainstream media, it is better media. And because there is not enough capital in alternative media, then it is not superior media. And yet, alternative media is actually much more connected to communities. It is audience driven, if you want, other than corporate driven. But we must also appreciate that when you support alternative media, there is a way in which mainstream media becomes, actually utilizes the sources of alternative media, and picks stories, as it were, from alternative media and enhances them. So there is a sense in which both forms of media interact and enhance each other. There is a way in which alternative media picks from mainstream media and digs deeper into the story through some form of investigative work at the community level. And so this perpetual hybridity, this perpetual interaction between mainstream media and alternative media is extremely important. Now, with regard to whether there is a way of increasing our reading culture, I think it's to ask the question, what do Kenyans read? If they do not read intellectually stimulating publications, how is it possible to make the intellectually stimulating content more popular? So that, because I do not believe that there is a way you can force people to read in a particular way or to read particular books. I think it is to find out what is it that they read, and then to make the necessary adjustments in terms of content, especially with regard to the packaging of the content. You might want to retain the same content, but you package it in a manner that is appealing to your audience. I think there is also the possibility of giving materials differently. If people are not reading, what is it that they are doing? Maybe they are listening. So you have to come up with the audio books. So you record your publications on some digital platform, and then people will be able to listen to the content, audially. Or alternatively, that you use film as a way of reading, it's because people are no longer reading in the traditional way. So I think it is coming in creatively to turn material that appears not to be accessible to our audiences and to repackage the same materials in formats that are appealing to them. I do not believe that there are societies that do not want to benefit from knowledge. I think all societies are interested in benefiting from knowledge. I think that all societies have individuals that are curious and inquisitive about the world, and so it is to ask ourselves, how do we reach them? And that is why at Twaweza we think that to the extent that local language stations have a strong following, that there is a way in which we can penetrate that media and give content that is of value to the audiences, and not just value to them in terms of their lives and so on, but also in terms of how they relate with people from other communities who may not necessarily speak that language of the broadcast. And so it's really to always look beyond the singular community to other communities and the relationships that need to be built across ethnic divides and so on, and also just being able to empower communities so that they can become agents of their own transformation. So in my view, it is important that whatever materials we produce and are produced by the sector, those materials are packaged in a manner that the audience finds value in them, and that that you are not like drumming it down their throats to access the materials. They access the materials of their own volition because the materials are useful in their lives.